الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أفضل الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين. يقول الله عز وجل: وإنه لتنزيل رب العالمين نزل به الروح الأمين على قلبك لتكون من المنذرين بلسان عربي مبين. We continue inshallah from last lesson, last Thursday. We stopped on Surah Ma'idah. Inshallah today we'll try to go a bit faster on the virtues and merits of Quran, on the various surahs of the Quran. Last week I think I spent too much time. Huh? What do you say? Last week I went on too much. Inshallah this week, unless anything is not clear, if anything's not clear, please raise your hand, okay? Don't feel shy to raise your hand. This is a lesson, okay? I want you to learn. I want you to go home, register these things. If you can, make notes. If you can make notes, or even on your phone, it's fine, okay? Because you're going to go home and you're going to forget everything. Ustad came, Ustad went, I listened to a nice, fascinating lecture, mashallah. He said some Arabic, he said some English, and he said some nice virtues about some surahs, and then bye-bye. Okay? We don't want that to happen. Rather, get your phones out, even on your WhatsApp, even on a notepad, whatever you have, make notes. Again, this is the book that I'm following. Okay, Hafiz al-Dimyati, one of the greatest Huffaz and probably, if not one of the greatest Muhaddithin of the 7th century. Okay, all the Muhaddithin were his students. Ibn Kathir, Hafiz al-Mizzi, Hafiz al-Dhahabi, all the Huffaz that you can think of in the 7th century. Again, I'm not going to be repeating again and again because he keeps on repeating again and again on each and many of the surahs of the Quran. He repeats the same virtue again and again. Okay, I'm not going to repeat that. Why he does that, I told you this last week, because there are a lot of virtues in many of the surahs that are mawdu', that are da'if jiddan, that are absolutely fabricated and absolutely extremely weak, which you're not able to accept at all. Okay, so those are the reasons why he specifically sticks to accepted hadith. I wouldn't say just sahih, but accepted hadith. Okay, there's a big difference, massive difference. We're not going to go into the terminology. The terminology is for muhaddithin. Inshallah, when we go to on the compilation of hadith and how hadith works, the mustalah al-hadith, usul al-hadith, ulum al-hadith, inshallah, we're going to expand on that stuff. Some of the ahkam that were revealed in Surah Ma'idah, I told you there's 18 laws, 18 rulings in Surah Ma'idah that is not found in any other surah in the whole Quran. Okay? That's not found in any other surah in the whole Quran. From them, I quoted to you, prohibited upon you is dead animals. What do you call? حُرِّمَتْ عَلَيْكُمُ الْمَيْتَةِ. Then we expanded a bit. I'm not going to expand anymore, don't worry. And then we spoke about, then the second one, we're only going through a couple of them, not all 18 of them. قُلْ أُحِلَّ لَكُمُ الطَّيِّبَاتِ. There, it refers to, I told you the mentality that we have is everything is haram until proven halal. No, that's not the case of the Quran. The Quran says the opposite way around. Everything is halal until proven haram. Okay? That's the way the Quranic mentality works. And I told you Imam Malik as well. I gave an example of Imam Malik being very relaxed in the issue. Then we go on to the third issue. وَطَعَامُ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ حِلٌّ لَكُمْ. I'm not going to go into the masail here, okay? I'm not going to go into the masail specifically. Please go to muftis, reliable muftis for this. I'm not a mufti. I'm not going to give you no fatwas here, okay? If you want to come to me, I'll go and give you the references. That's all I do, okay? وَطَعَامُ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ حِلٌّ لَكُمْ. The food of the food of those who are given the book, meaning the Jews and the Christians, is halal for you. Okay? It's halal for you. Of course, majority of the muftis, they question them who we're living with in this country, for example, them being Christians. Are they actual Christians or not? Okay? This is why majority of them give the fatwa against it. Doesn't mean they're giving fatwa against the Quran. No. Don't misunderstand this, please. Okay? Please don't misunderstand this. This is a field where the muftis have understood very well before they give that fatwa. So because of the questionability of how much they're actually following the book, or even if they are following the book or not, or if they are considered to be Ahlul Kitab or not. This is the reason why a lot of them say it's absolutely haram. That's why. Otherwise, they'd be muftis. Otherwise, you'd find sheikhs coming out and saying, okay, McDonald's is haram, KFC is halal. Sorry, McDonald's is halal, KFC is halal, and everything else is halal as well. Why? Because we live in a Christian country, therefore everything is halal. It's wrong, completely wrong. Anyone that is sane will go against that opinion, okay? Anyone that has any level of intelligence will go against that opinion. Never can you say such things, okay? Another ruling was وَالْمُحْصَنَاتُ مِنَ الَّذِينَ أُوتُوا الْكِتَابَ مِنْ قَبْلِكُمْ, that a man can marry a woman from the Ahlul Kitab. Okay. Again, these injunctions, these rulings are not found in any other surah. A man can marry a proper Jewess and a proper Christian woman. Okay. This is a permission given. Yes, we have prohibitions, like for example, Umar ibn al-Khattab at that time. Again, I'm not going to go into too much detail. There's a reason why I'm going through this in this way. Umar ibn al-Khattab, he forbade. He heard Hudhayfah ibn al-Yaman, one of the governors in one of the states that he was appointed. He heard that Hudhayfah ibn al-Yaman, he married, and Hudhayfah ibn al-Yaman is a very senior Sahaba. Not for anyone to misunderstand. Hudhayfah ibn al-Yaman he used to keep the secrets of Rasulullah. He used to know all the secrets of Rasulullah. So he was a very senior Sahaba. So when he was a governor, appointed as a governor by Umar ibn al-Khattab, and he married a Christian woman, Umar ibn al-Khattab wrote a letter saying that you should not be doing this. Not to say he's going against the Quran, astaghfirullah, okay? This is not to be misunderstood. Please, again, he is not to be misunderstood. The reason why he said it is because, look, when a person is in such level of authority, when a person is there's certain things that are allowed for normal people, whereas it's not allowed for imams. Okay? Let's understand it on a base level. Okay? That's why you see, for example, Rasulullah, he gets rebuked for something which is so petty to us. Like, if you think about it, we're like, oh wow, how is that possible? Abasa wa tawalla an ja'ahu al-a'ma. That shows how true the Quran is. Okay? Otherwise, he wouldn't have said all these surahs. He wouldn't have exposed himself, isn't it? So, the point that I'm trying to make is there's certain things that are not appropriate for certain people in certain high ranks that may be overlooked with normal people. Okay? So, Hudhayfah ibn al-Yaman, if he done that, then the rest of his followers, the area that he's governing, they would start marrying all the Christian women and all the Jewish women. And then what would happen? The Muslim women will, unfortunately, be unmarried. And then it's going to cause a massive problem within the whole Islamic society. Okay? And another problem is the deen may not stay. Back in the days, okay, men were more dominant. Nowadays, unfortunately, there's other things going on, isn't it? They're twisting our food, they're changing our food, they're tampering our food, and estrogen levels are high even in men. We're not men anymore, unfortunately, isn't it? So, the point is that there should be absolute authority and dominance in such a way that deen does not leave your progeny. Deen does not leave your descendants, your children, your grandchildren, your great-great-grandchildren. And I spoke about the virtues of having a child last week a bit. All the rewards of your child, your grandchildren, your grandchildren, all of that comes on your shoulders. Okay? So to be stingy and to say, I only want one child, or I don't. If Allah doesn't give you a child, that's something else. That's from Allah. Allah wants the best for you. That's best for you. Okay? Allah didn't give you a child, don't force it. Don't force it. It's good for you. Okay? Many people want to go over and above. If it's not meant for you, Allah didn't want this for you. Maybe serve the deen in other capacities. Do you understand? Serve the deen in other capacities. Allah has given you so many different tools, so many different Many people have different talents. Use that. Okay? Then another verse is the verse of wudu. The verse of wudu is in Surah Ma'idah. Is it found in any other surahs? No. Only in Surah Ma'idah. إذا قمتم إلى الصلاة فاغسلوا وجوهكم وأيديكم إلى المرافق وامسحوا برؤوسكم وأرجلكم إلى الكعبين. That is only found in Surah Ma'idah. Another one was والسارق والسارقة فاقطعوا أيديهما جزاء بما كسبا نكالا من الله. About the cutting off of the thief's hand. Of course, it has to be established. Of course, there has to be a full Islamic government. Of course, there has to be a full judge. A proper method the conditions have to be met. So many conditions, okay? That's why even throughout whole of Islamic history, you'll only find couple. Very, very few, okay? Very few. Anyone that says otherwise, please come with your evidence, okay? Come with your evidence. It's not true, okay? The way they make it like, oh, if an Islamic government happens, then everyone's going to be chopping hands left, right, and center, chopping feet left, right. This is complete fallacy. This is fairy tales. This never existed, never will exist, never can exist. Okay? This is completely, totally untrue. Next, we go on to another verse that's mentioned is لا تقتلوا الصيد. You're not allowed to hunt game. Hunt game meaning you're not allowed to kill any animal whilst you're in the state of ihram. In the state of ihram, you are not allowed to kill any sort of animal and hunt any animal. Of course, if it's like lice and stuff, and it's overlooked. Even then they say you should give charity and stuff. The books of Hajj. Right, inshallah. We'll go on to the next surah, Surah An-Na'am. I'm going to try to go through as briefly as I can, as fast as I can. Okay, because I want to go into our actual topic, which is Islamic history of the sciences. This was by the way, just an introduction to the subject in order for everyone to be uplifted. In order everyone to be uplifted and have some motivation that we want to connect ourselves to the Quran first. And then, inshallah, there would be a point of us actually going into the sciences and knowing what the sciences are and why each and every single science was composed by the scholars. So, Surah An'am, how does it start off? Anyone know which juz it is in? Surah An'am. Someone have his subs. Huh? Juz number 7. How does it start? MashaAllah. Alhamdulillah alladhi khalaqa as-samawati wal arda wa ja'ala adh-dhulumati wan nur. So that is Surah An'am. What's the virtue of Surah An'am? عن جابر رضي الله عنه قال لما نزلت سورة الأنعام سبح رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم ثم قال شيع هذه السورة من الملائكة ما سد الأفق. This is reported in أخرجه الحاكم في المستدرك. Jabir radiallahu anhu narrates, when this surah was revealed, there were so many angels in the horizon, in the sky, as if the whole horizon was just full of angels. Completely full of angels. Surah An'am. The next hadith only expands on this. عن أنس بن مالك رضي الله عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم نزلت سورة الأنعام ومعها موكب من الملائكة سد ما بين الخافقين لهم زجل بالتسبيح والأرض بهم ترتج ورسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول سبحان الله العظيم سبحان الله العظيم 3 مرات. سبحان الله. When Surah Al-An'am came down, there was a massive humming sound of tasbih of the malaika. Well, the whole skies. Okay, the whole sky was completely full in all directions. Lahum zajalun bit tasbih. They had humming sounds with glorification. Tasbih, subhanallah, subhanallah, subhanallah. The angels were making, the malaika were making. Wal ardu bihim. Even the earth was shaking. Even the earth was trembling. Subhanallah. And Rasulullah repeated Subhanallah al-Azim 3 times. Subhanallah al-Azim, Subhanallah al-Azim, Subhanallah al-Azim. The next one expands on the same virtue. An Abdullah ibn Umar. So we can see 3 different Sahabas are narrating the same virtue of the same surah in 3 similar ways. Jabir radiallahu anhu first, Anas bin Malik second, and Abdullah bin Umar. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم نزلت علي سورة الأنعام جملة واحدة يشيعها 70,000 ملك لهم زجل بالتسبيح والتحميد. أخرجه الطبراني في المعجم الصغير. When this surah came down, it came down all at once. So many surahs, they came down in portions, as we said. Some, maybe some couple of verses. Many surahs came down all together. This is one of the surahs that came down all together, and it's one of the longer surahs inside the Quran. Quite long. Okay, it's considered as the 7 Tul. Okay, so Tul, we said the 7 beginning surahs, which are very long, from Surah Baqarah until Surah end of Tawbah. So, so 70,000 angels came down with the coming down of this surah. When this surah came down, 70,000 angels came down, and this surah came down all at once. All of the angels were making tasbih and tahmeed. Tasbih is subhanallah, alhamdulillah, subhanallah, and tahmeed is alhamdulillah. Subhanallah and alhamdulillah, they were continuously humming, like the humming of birds. عن عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه, now is the father, not Abdullah bin Umar, now is the father. عن عبد الله بن عمر عن عمر بن الخطاب رضي الله عنه قال الأنعام من نواجذ القرآن. Umar ibn al-Khattab says Surah An'am is from among the superior surahs of the Quran. Superior surahs of the Quran. And we told you some of the distinctions of Surah Ma'idah. Likewise, each and every surah, especially within the first couple of surahs, the seven long surahs, they have extreme distinctions because they are Medinian. First thing, they are Medinian. Majority of them are Medinian. Therefore, the laws and injunctions that you'll find inside these will not be in any others. Next, we go on to Surah Anfal. Surah Anfal. Do you know what Anfal is? Anyone know what Anfal is? Huh? The booty that they get from war. Okay? Not war, but like battle. From battle. This is Surah Surah Anfal. Here in Surah Anfal, عن عبد الله بن عباس قال قلت لعثمان بن عفان ما حملكم أن عمدتم إلى براءة. Okay, I'll just give you the summary, inshallah. Uthman ibn Affan, he considered both of them to be this Surah Anfal and Surah Tawbah, which comes after, okay, to be one long surah, and he considered them from the 7 long surahs of the Quran. 7 long surahs of the Quran that come in the beginning of the Quran. Now, why did he consider that? The reason is given. وَكَانَتِ الْأَنْفَالِ مِنْ أَوَّلِ مَا نُزِلَ عَلَيْهِ بِالْمَدِينَةِ وَكَانَتْ بَرَاءَةٌ مِنْ آخِرِ مَا نُزِلَ فِي الْقُرْآنِ. Surah Anfal was from those surahs which were revealed in the beginning stages of Medina, whereas Tawbah was at the end stage of Medina. So if you want to say that just after the Hijrah, immediately, more or less, Surah Anfal was after, well, it can only come after Jihad, isn't it? So therefore, after at least 2 years within that period after Hijrah, that's when Surah Anfal would have come down, and Surah Tawbah would have been right at the end. Now, why did Uthman ibn Affan consider it to be more or less one surah? Number one, all of the Sahaba agreed that there was no Bismillah. In the revelation of Surah Tawbah, the next surah after Anfal, there was no Bismillah. And there is no Bismillah until today. We don't read Bismillah. When we read Bara'atu min Allahi wa Rasulihi, we don't read Bismillah. Why he considered? Because the subject matter is similar. Subject matter is very similar. One talks about making covenants. The other one talks about breaking covenants. So the theme is extremely similar. One talks about making covenants, another one covenants meaning alliances. Alliances, treaties. Okay? The other one talks about breaking them. One talks about the Muslims with the Meccan polytheists, whereas the other one talks about the munafiqeen. The munafiqeen, those who broke the covenants, okay, in Medina. And how to deal with each one. Another understanding is given why Bismillah wasn't written. Of course, in the Tafsir, you'll find many. You'll find so many. more than, even in Jalalain, in the Hashiyah, there's more than 5. Okay, 5 reasons why Bismillah isn't written. I'm not going to go through all those. Here, just for you to understand logically, rationally, there's covenants here, there's covenants there. Here, there's making covenants, there's breaking covenants. Surah Anfal, Surah Tawbah. Then you have, what do you call? The Muslims. What happened amongst the Muslims and the Meccan polytheists, whereas they're Muslims versus the hypocrites of Medina. Imam al-Qushayri, he says the correct view is that Bismillah was not part of this surah because Jibril did not come with it. That's the ultimate answer. That's the ultimate answer. Jibril didn't come with it, therefore there's no Bismillah there. All those other things that are given are reasons, are wisdoms. We say wisdoms. Reasons are something which is specifically given by Rasulullah. Wisdoms are something which are ulama, they come up with because of this, because of that. Okay? Ulama give wisdoms, whereas Rasulullah gives the actual reason. Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu, he says, Bismillah was not written in Surah Bara'ah because Bismillah is a guarantee for security. Guarantee for security. Whereas Bara'ah, Surah Tawbah, was revealed in regards to the sword, in regards to jihad, in regards to encouraging men for jihad. Okay? So here, therefore, it won't make sense for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be talking about giving security, giving aman, giving peace to those that are waging war against Allah and His Rasul. Does that make sense? And this is when they were breaking a treaty, the truce, okay, with Rasulullah. Therefore, again, it doesn't rationally make sense for even the Arabs, when they used to write letters, they would write letters with Bismillah, with when they're making covenants. When they're breaking covenants, they wouldn't write that. It was their custom. Now we go to Surah Tawbah. Okay, we go to Surah Tawbah. Of course, both of them are connected, yet separated. Okay. عن أبي عطية قال كتب إلينا عمر بن الخطاب أن تعلموا سورة التوبة وعلموا نساءكم سورة النور. We spoke about this in Surah Ma'idah, that men are encouraged to learn Surah Ma'idah, whereas women are encouraged to learn Surah Nur. Yeah. Here, Umar ibn al-Khattab's riwayah narration says that teach Surah Tawbah to men, not just Ma'idah. Surah Tawbah as well. Men must learn Surah Tawbah, and women should learn Surah Nur. This is Umar ibn al-Khattab, yeah? So, why? Because Surah Tawbah is giving you encouragement towards jihad. So men should not become cowards, isn't it? When jihad comes, when the time comes, you are able to, the first thing is we stay fit. That's the biggest one that we're struggling with right at the moment, isn't it? Can't even fix ourselves. Mentally, physically, all those things are necessary for you to. So therefore, if you have that niyyah and you're going to the gym, fix yourself too, then inshallah you'll be rewarded for that, isn't it? Every single time that you go to the gym, at least you make the intention. Therefore, it makes it something hasana, something which you get rewards for. Because everything is dependent upon your intention. If you have 10 intentions to do one action, then you're going to get rewarded 10 times, 10 multiple times in different ways. Whereas if you have one intention, you'll get rewarded only that one type of reward. Is that understood? So whenever you come inside the masjid, what do you make niyyah of? Not just praying. Even sitting in the masjid is rewarding, isn't it? And we are told to make intention of nafal i'tikaf. Nafal i'tikaf. I'tikaf is normally done, sunnah i'tikaf is done in the last 10 days of Ramadan, isn't it? Whereas nafal i'tikaf can be done even for a moment, the moment you come inside the masjid. So when you come inside the masjid hall, make sure you have that intention. That's a side point. Whereas Surah Nur, so learn, make the men learn the surah, memorize the surah, Surah Tawbah. Whereas for Surah An-Nur, it mentions about hijab. And I told you many other things that are mentioned in Surah An-Nur, which builds the moral of women. Why do women become so loose? Why do women become so bad? Because they don't have no morals of the Quran. You don't teach them the morals of the Quran. If you don't teach them Surah Nur, what are you going to teach them? They're going to learn from all these other avenues. Isn't it? They're going to learn from all these other avenues. Wrong morals. There's one narration here, and Ibrahim al-Nakha'i radiyallahu anhu. Ibrahim al-Nakha'i was, so our sanad of the Hanafi madhab was from Imam Abu Hanifa, who accompanied Hammad ibn Abi Sulaiman for 18 years. This is student and teacher. The student, Imam Abu Hanifa, stayed with Imam Hammad until Imam Hammad died. Hammad bin Sulaiman. Then after Hammad bin Sulaiman, his ustad is Ibrahim al-Nakha'i. Ibrahim al-Nakha'i. He was one of the greatest fuqaha of Kufa. If you look at Tirmidhi's book, I mentioned to you last week. If you look at Imam Tirmidhi's book, all those people that are from Ahlul Ilm, he mentions this, Ibrahim al-Nakha'i. Because majority of the ulama that come later, they say majority of the fiqh of Imam Abu Hanifa is basically Imam Ibrahim al-Nakha'i's fiqh. They were in the same place, and majority of the rulings coincide together. Therefore, they say this is Ibrahim al-Nakha'i's madhab instead of Imam Abu Hanifa's madhab. Whereas that's not true. That's not true. In many masail, he does. There are differences. Maybe in the usul the same because he's ustad. In a way, in ilm, he's like the grandfather. Imam Abu Hanifa's grandfather. So, Imam Abu Hanifa, then you have Hammad. Come on, memorize these names. Hammad ibn Abi Sulaiman, then Ibrahim al-Nakha'i, then Alqamah ibn al-Aswad. Alqamah, one of the greatest students of Abdullah bin Mas'ud. Alqamah, his knowledge, Alqamah and Aswad. Alqamah ibn al-Aswad. His knowledge was such that he was more superior than many of the Sahaba. Hundreds of Sahaba. Because of his ilm. Not to say he can reach their rank. Of course, we all know that no one can reach the rank of any Sahabi, even the Sahabi that met once. Okay? The Sahabi that even met in Hajjatul Wada', the farewell pilgrimage, 124,000. Yeah? I don't think they saw Rasulullah's face directly. Do you think? Is it possible? Back in the days, they never had projectors. Okay? Project Rasulullah's face or something. So, many of them, they saw him from so far. Very far. But they still considered Sahaba. Then inshallah. So here, Ibrahim al-Nakha'i, he narrates. And then, of course, after Alqamah is Ibn Mas'ud. And Ibn Mas'ud, we know Ibn Mas'ud. There is no Sahabi that knows more of Rasulullah than Ibn Mas'ud. Ibn Mas'ud was Ibn Mas'ud. Okay? You say Abdullah, automatically it refers to Ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu. So, عن إبراهيم النخعي قال خرج عبد الرحمن بن يزيد مرة وهو يريد أن يجاعل في بعث خرج عليه ثم أصبح فتجهز فقلت ألم تكن أردت أن تجاعل فقال بلى ولكن قرأت البارحة سورة براءة فسمعتها تحث على الجهاد. Yazid ibn Murrah, he wanted to basically hire someone on his behalf for jihad. That itself is a great action. And the reward of it is similar to yourself going in jihad as well. But he went at night and he recited Surah Tawbah. In the morning, what happened? Instead of hiring someone, he went himself. He was ready with his horse to go out in jihad. And then they told him, what happened? I thought you wanted to hire someone for jihad rather than you go for jihad yourself. He's like, no, I read Surah Tawbah. And that encouraged me towards going for jihad myself. You understand? So, therefore, he prepared and he went for jihad. This is how these people were. These tabi'een, these sahaba, these atba'u tabi'een. When they heard something, they applied it on the spot. They didn't take time. Okay? And of course, in Surah Tawbah, there's a part where it says, if you do not go forth, like a rebuke, it's like a warning, it's like a threat. If you do not go forth, he will give you a painful punishment and bring in your place another people. Okay? Bring in your place another people. So therefore, because of those sorts of verses, he was encouraged even more. Okay? Meaning, I don't go, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala prefer someone else. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala select someone else. Because for us to come into the masjid itself is selection. Nowadays, for us to come into the masjid, it's a great selection from Allah. Look at what other people are doing, isn't it? But we, alhamdulillah, we are in the company of malaika, in the company of angels here, in durus, learning something of our deen, applying something for our deen. Here, inshallah. We'll move on to Surah Yunus. Surah Yunus. Yeah, Imam al-Zarkashi. Imam al-Zarkashi was one of the great scholars of the 7th century. Let's say 8th century. Yeah? 8th century of Islam. Okay, Hijri. 800 years after Hijrah. Just before he wrote a massive book on Ulumul Quran. Al-Burhanu fi Ulumul Quran. He was one of the greatest Shafi'i scholars that lived in the... See, unfortunately, what happens nowadays is most people, they don't know anyone except 2-3 people in history. And they start talking, these three sheikhs are the world-renowned sheikhs, and these are the only acceptable sheikhs, and everyone else is... As if there's no scholars in history. They speak about Islam as if there's no other person in history, besides Ibn Taymiyyah and besides Ibn Qayyim. This is wrong. This is... What type of mentality is this? There's no ilmi background to that. If you can think like that, then you're basically negating all of history. All of history. In every single century, there was great scholars. Great scholars. And they wrote such that are way better than any books written by Ibn al-Qayyim or Ibn Taymiyyah. Way, million times better. They couldn't even smell such things. Just to put things into perspective, when people start restricting themselves to certain people, it becomes a problem. It becomes a massive problem because of ignorance. This is ignorance. All of it is ignorance. Okay? All of this is absolute ignorance. It's done because of ignorance. Unfortunately, they don't know anyone but that. Are you telling me there was no other mufassir besides Tabari and Ibn Kathir? Tabari and Ibn Kathir, if you look at the tafsir itself and you look at other tafsirs, Tabari and Ibn Kathir are just riwayat. Most of it, majority of it, is riwayatan. It's just narrations that are linked to the verses. Why I'm talking is because we're linking it to Quran, isn't it? Everything that we're speaking is linked to Quran. Ibn Kathir, one of our ustads, he said, it's not even a tafsir. How could you even consider it a tafsir? It's just basically a verse of the Quran, and he's connecting that verse to certain narrations that are found. That's all it is. Certain hadiths, basically. Hadiths and sometimes aqwal of the Sahaba and the Tabi'in. It's not even a tafsir. It's not even a proper tafsir. But now, our time of ignorance, alhamdulillah, what do? Tafsir Ibn Kathir is our go-to. That's the only tafsir we know. Any other tafsir anyone quotes, you're like, we've never heard of that. We don't know. Which tafsir are you talking about? There's hundreds of tafsirs written, hundreds, by great allamas. Allama. You know what allama is? It's not alim. Alim is different. Allama. Someone who's an expert in every single field of the Sharia. This is who we call allama. Someone who's an expert in every single field of Islamic Sharia. So they were great allamas. Tafsir al-Razi is one of the best. Mafatih al-Ghaib is one of the best tafsirs. One of the most organized tafsirs in the world. Of course, he's a Shafi'i. He's going to be a bit biased. Okay? For the Hanafis, it's going to be a bit of a problem, isn't it? But the point is, the gems that he has inside that tafsir, the organization that he has inside that tafsir, no other tafsir has it. The level of rational way of thinking and how to apply nahwu and sarf and grammar and everything that you learn throughout your 6, 7, 8 years of your dars nizami, he applies it all over every single verse of the Quran. And you can see the depth of knowledge he had. So for you to restrict yourself to certain people is wrong. Completely wrong. Okay? This is out of ignorance only. So here he says, Imam Zarkashi says, and this is in Burhan fi Ulum al-Quran, in his Ulum al-Quran book. The book that we know generally in Ulum al-Quran is Itqan. Itqan is the great book, which is by Imam Suyuti. Which is by Imam Suyuti. This was basically like a condensed version, yet he added a lot of more chapters. That's why Itqan became like the be all and the end all. Okay, later on. And then there was commentaries, more or less commentaries written, and that became even more. I mean, for researchers, it became more well accepted. So Imam Zarkashi says those surahs which have more than 100 or more verses, those are considered from the mi'un. We spoke about mi'un last week. 100 verses. Mi'un plural. So those surahs that have 100 verses or more that come after the seven long surahs, those are called mi'un, 100 verses or more. Anything which is less than 100 verses is not considered. So from after Surah Tawbah, all the way until Surah Qaf, any surah which has less than 100 verses is not considered from mi'un. Rather, it's considered from mathani. Mathani. Okay? Mathani. Mathani means oft-repeated. Okay? Oft-repeated surahs. Mi'un means 100 or more. 100. So that's a point that Imam Zarkashi makes in his Burhan. And then he mentions the mi'in are Surah Yunus. The surahs which have 100 verses or more are Surah Yunus, Surah Hud. So Surah Yunus has 109 verses. Surah Hud has 123 verses. Surah Yusuf has 111 verses. Surah Nahl has 128 verses. Surah Isra has 111 verses. Surah Kahf has 110 verses. Surah Taha has 135 verses. Surah Anbiya has 112 verses. Surah Mu'minun has 118 verses. And Surah Ash-Shu'ara has 227 verses. Surah Safat has 182 verses. These are the surahs which are called Mi'un. Surah Yunus, Surah Hud, Surah Yusuf, Surah Nahl, Surah Isra, Surah Kahf, Surah Taha, Surah Anbiya, Surah Mu'minun, Surah Shu'ara, and Surah Safat. 11. Okay? 11 surahs. The next narration we have عن الأحنف قال صليت خلف عمر الغداة فقرأ بيونس وهود ونحوهما. I prayed Salatul Fajr behind Umar radiallahu anhu, and he prayed with Surah Yunus and Surah Hud. Okay, Surah Yunus and Surah Hud. We know that Fajr Salah, the Sunnah is, according to majority of the scholars, even the four madhabs, more or less, in agreement. There's slight differences here and there with which surahs are considered. Dhuhr Salah, stuff like that. But majority of them agree more or less under this classification that Fajr and Dhuhr must be long. Fajr and Dhuhr must be long. The general way was that Rasulullah used to recite from Qaf until Surah Inshiqaq. Surah إذا السماء انشقت. In Fajr and in Dhuhr. Fajr and Dhuhr, Surah Qaf until Inshiqaq. إذا السماء انشقت. It was the general sunnah. Okay? Rasulullah and the Sahaba. Asr and Isha from Surah Buruj والسماء ذات البروج until Surah Bayyinah لم يكن الذين كفروا. Asr and Isha. Maghrib Salah, this was the general sunnah. Okay? This is the general sunnah. We read different surahs in different times, sometimes. Even in Fajr and Salahs. But this was the general custom. This was the sunnah. If you want to know what the sunnah is, these are the sunnah. Maghrib Salah from Idha Zulzila until Nas. Okay? Maghrib Salah is generally short. Of course, you'll find narrations sometimes Rasulullah did pray long. Did pray long. That doesn't mean all the time you have to make it short. Some people, the problem is, it's like with the witr salah. You know, they read the narration of هل أتاك حديث الغاشية سبح اسم ربك الأعلى قل يا أيها الكافرون قل هو الله أحد, and then they start repeating that the whole month of Ramadan, and everyone, the whole musallis, they're like, is there no other surah that was revealed in witr salah? You get tired. You get tired of the same surah. That's just generally, that's the tabi'atul insan. You know, that's the nature of insan. That's why Rasulullah continued switching. That's why Rasulullah switched. He did not always stick to one. You know, you'll see, for example, Surah Qaf repeated a lot in his Jumu'ah khutbah and stuff like that. Let's move on, inshallah. Surah Hud. Surah Hud. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And Abdullah ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu قال Abu Bakr radiyallahu anhu. Abu Bakr, of course, he has very few narrations. Why? Because he lived only 2.5 years after Rasulullah. His Khilafah was only 2.5 years, then he passed away. And he passed away same age as Rasulullah, isn't he? 63. Same age as Rasulullah. He was younger than Rasulullah, but he used to look a bit older. Even when he came into Medina after the Hijrah, they thought Abu Bakr was Rasulullah, because Abu Bakr looked more senior. Subhanallah. Here, and Abdullah ibn Abbas, he narrates, قال Abu Bakr. When we find a narration of Abu Bakr, we get happy. Why? Because there's only a certain amount of narrations that is narrated on the authority of Abu Bakr. And Abu Bakr is Abu Bakr. The iman of the whole world were to be put on one scale, and the iman of Abu Bakr to be put on another scale. The iman of Abu Bakr would have been way heavier than any of the iman of the whole world, including all the Sahaba, including everyone to come until the day of Qiyamah. No one can compare to Abu Bakr. Abu Bakr is Abu Bakr. radiyallahu anhu. Wa anhum ajma'in. Ya Rasulullah. قال شيبته. As a friend, they were friends, isn't it? More or less close in ages, well, companions, friends. Ya Rasulullah, you've gone old, you've gone grey. Your grey hairs are coming out now. قال شيبتني هود وأخواتها. شيبتني هود والواقعة والمرسلات وعما يتساءلون وإذا الشمس كورت. These surahs, Surah Hud, Surah Waqi'ah, Surah Mursalat, Surah Amma Yatasa'alun, and إذا الشمس كورت, these 5 surahs, they made me go grey. Why? Because these surahs are talking about Qiyamah. These surahs are talking about Qiyamah, the terrors of Qiyamah, the horrors of Qiyamah, the the things that are going to happen at the time of Qiyamah, like the stars falling, the sky splitting, and all of that stuff is inside these surahs. And of course, Rasulullah and the Sahaba, when they used to read these surahs, they used to read it with contemplation. They used to ponder upon these verses. Okay? They used to ponder upon these verses. So these surahs made me go grey. Doesn't mean Rasulullah had many grey hairs, of course. Okay? Not to misunderstand this. Rasulullah had, basically what happened, what was basically the case, is that he had a few more strands of grey hair on his beard than he had on his head. Okay? This is the reason why Abu Bakr mentioned this statement. And then the next narration, similar, شَيَّبَتْنِي هُودٌ وَأَخَوَاتُهَا, on the authority of Uqbat ibn Amir. So when the narration comes from different Sahabas, it gives you more peace of heart, doesn't it? Huh? Because you know that this narration is corroborated with different Sahabas. Therefore, this narration is 100% strong. Yeah? When news comes from 4 or 5 different avenues, don't you have more yaqeen? Don't you have more certainty in that? Of course. When news comes from one person, like, it may be the case, it might not be the case. You might have misunderstood the news, isn't it? So, here, when it's come from multiple Sahabas, then you know that this the authenticity is very strong. Then the next one, Abu Sa'id al-Khudri radiyallahu anhu reports on the authority of Umar ibn al-Khattab. Okay, he says, Umar ibn al-Khattab said, Ya Rasulullah. Over there he said, Abu Bakr said, Ya Rasulullah. Here, Umar ibn al-Khattab said, Ya Rasulullah. أسرع إليك الشيب. Grayness has overtaken you really quickly. Meaning you've become grey really early. قال شيبتني هود وأخواتها. Hud and its sisters have made me go grey. Meaning its sisters, and it mentions Al-Waqi'ah, Surah Waqi'ah, Surah Amma Yatasa'alun, and Idha Shamsu Kuwirat. The next narration mentions what I mentioned. وكانت لحية رسول الله أكثر شيبا من رأسه فبكى أبو بكر وقال يا رسول الله أسرع فيك الشيء فقال أجل شيبتني هود وأخواتها الواقعة والقارعة. mentions السورة قارعة القارعة من القارعة. and then وإذا الشمس كورت وسأل سائل بعذاب واقع. سورة who knows it? Ma'arij. Very good. These surahs, any surahs which are talking about the Qiyamah, I told you, Sahabas and Rasulullah used to ponder upon them excessively. Because أكثروا ذكر هذه اللذات. Remember that which kills all your pleasures. What kills all your pleasures? Death. Death and whatever comes after death. This is what keeps us humans. Isn't it? This is what keeps us intact, in line. If we as Muslims didn't think about our akhirah, we would be doing so many other things on the streets. We wouldn't have any haya. We'd be doing a million things. Allah preserve all of us. Allah protect all of us, all the Muslims. So, that's why when we keep on mentioning death, when we keep on mentioning akhirah, when we keep that 24/7 in our lives, we always stay in line. We always stay. We know our goal. We know our aim. We know what we're going towards. We're not. This is darul. This is only temporary. This is not our real abode. Okay, we are working towards the akhirah. And then there's an addition in the next narration. وَمَا فُعِلَ بِالْأُمَمِ قَبْلِ. These surahs mention that which happened to the nations that came before me. All those nations that got destroyed from Nuh alayhi salam's time until Isa alayhi salam's time. All the way throughout history repeats itself. So when you learn why they got destroyed, that's why intentionally you're not supposed to be making the same mistakes, isn't it? Huh? But we are making the same mistakes again and again. Huh? It's coming again and again. Lut alayhi salam's nation, take the thing down. Month of June, problem, isn't it? Problem for all of us. Problem for our children that are in school. Big problem, massive problem. Allah protect. Allah protect. Ameen. Here, Abdullah bin Umar radiallahu anhu narrates, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم من سره أن ينظر إلى يوم القيامة كأنه رأي عين. Anyone wants to see the day of judgment as if he's seeing it with his own naked eyes, let him ponder over these surahs. إذا الشمس كورت تكوير إذا السماء انفطرت وحسبت أنه قال وسورة هود. And I think Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم said Surah Hud. Okay? These surahs, the Shamsu Kuwirat. The sun eclipses with the moon. You're going to get me stuck here. You're going to have to open the Mus'haf. Okay? It's going to be in Juz Amma. It's in Juz Amma. So, إذا الشمس كورت. Maybe just you got Amma Yatasa'alun, you got والنازعات, you got Abasa. After Abasa you have إذا الشمس كورت. The fourth surah down from Amma Yatasa'alun. عن كعب قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم اقرأوا سورة هود يوم الجمعة. Read Surah Hud on the day of Jumu'ah. Why? It reminds you of the day of judgment. And what day is it going to be on the day of judgment? Friday is going to be a day of judgment, isn't it? Friday, we told in the Hadith that Friday will be Qiyamah between Asr and Maghrib. Qiyamah will take place between Asr and Maghrib on a Friday. So therefore, read this surah. Read Surah Hud on a Friday. In order for you to remember what will take place on Surah Kahf. We mentioned that previously. We're going to mention that as well, inshallah. It's coming. Surah Kahf is, of course, that's recommended. Kahf in the middle of the Quran. After Surah Bani Israel. After Surah Isra. So Rasulullah is established, of course, is going to be coming in the next following narrations. Surah Sajda and Surah Insan. This is what Rasulullah used to recite in the Fajr Salah of every Friday. Surah Sajda, Alif Lam Mim, Tanzilul Kitabi la rayba fihi min Rabbil Alamin, and Hal Ata ala al-insani hinun min ad-dahri lam yakun shay'an madhkura. These are the two surahs which are sunnah masnoon to do. Again, please don't do it to such an extent where you put people off. Okay, just like I said about the Witr Salah, just because Rasulullah read it a couple of times, doesn't mean you need to recite it until the day that you leave this world. Inshallah. He used to read Surah Qaf in the Friday sermon. When he's giving the khutbah, he used to recite Surah Qaf very often. Surah Qaf. Surah Qaf is talking about maut, death. وَجَاءَتْ سَكْرَةُ الْمَوْتِ بِالْحَقِّ. Isn't it? وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. We're more closer to you than your jugular vein. And in the Jumu'ah Salah itself, he used to recite Surah Jumu'ah and Surah Qamar. اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر. Surah before Surah Ar-Rahman. Okay, Surah before Surah Ar-Rahman. Sometimes he used to recite Surah A'la and Surah Ghashiyah. Okay, Surah A'la, سبح اسم ربك الأعلى, and Surah Ghashiyah, هل أتاك حديث الغاشية. You have to check it. You have to check how many verses. Subhanallah. Not that long. Not that long. See, the Sunnah, unfortunately, there's a big problem nowadays. People think they understand more than the Sahaba. People think they understand more than Rasulullah. Rasulullah said, Inna min qisari khutbatihi wa tula salatihi ma'innatun min fiqhihi. Is it what the Imams, yeah? If you go to them nicely, please. With absolute respect. But the Sunnah, which is mentioned in the Hadith of Bukhari and Muslim, and in the Hadith collections, is that the shorter the khutbah is different. Khutbah is not for specifically educating people. Many people think that this is an education time. Education time, Tamim al-Dari, Abu Huraira, they took specific permission from Umar ibn al-Khattab before the khutbah that they come and do an educative lesson. Not the khutbah. I'm not talking about the khutbah. Khutbah is separate. Khutbah is totally separate. Khutbah, the whole purpose of khutbah is not to educate. Is not just to educate. That's not the main purpose. Khutbah is like salah in many ways. Okay, it's not even a reminder. A reminder is like a nasiha. Reminder is like a nasiha. Whereas educative lesson, like a durus, like a dars now, this used to be Tamim al-Dari, Abu Huraira, and many other Sahabas. They took specific permission to give a separate lesson before in the masjid al-Nabawi. They took specific permission from Umar ibn al-Khattab to do a specific lesson. Of course, back then their language was Arabic, so therefore they gave it in Arabic. But this was the lesson. This was educative. Educative lesson is different from khutbah. Please don't misunderstand the two. Okay, khutbah must be given in a certain way. It's got certain conditions. It must be given in Arabic. It's not a choice. But the condition is, look at what the Haramain do. 45 minutes of khutbah. People are falling down unconscious in the sun. I'm not joking. I went to Umrah, alhamdulillah, many times. Alhamdulillah, Allah gave the opportunity to go for Hajj as well. We've seen this with our own eyes. People are falling down unconscious in the scorching sun. The sunnah is that the khutbah must be short. The salah must be long. The Jummah salah must be long. Who's saying this? Rasulullah saying this, not me. I'm not making it up. This is Bukhari and Muslim. You can go and check it up. It's in Riyadh al-Salihin. Inna min qisari khutbatihi wa tula salatihi ma'innatun min fiqhi. That shows, that's an indication to deep understanding of religion of that imam. If you make the opposite way, khutbah, mashallah, adha ghanta rufli. isn't it? And then Salah, inna atainaka al-Irbesh Portasaita. A big problem, massive problem. You should be reading your life out in Salah, whereas you should be keeping that's the Sunnah. You want to learn the Sunnah from Rasulullah, learn the Sunnah from the Sahaba. Uthman ibn Affan, the third Khalif, you know what he done? Though now there's debate on if that's allowed or not, according to the Fiqh Imams. He stood up, he said maybe less than a line. He sat down, that's his khutbah, done. No two khutbahs. He only recited only one verse probably, or half a verse. He sat down, khalas. That's khutbah done. Allah, aqim as-salah. Allahu Akbar. Fiqh discussions will take place. Okay? I'm not going to go into fiqh. Fiqh is not here. Surah Yusuf. We'll go to Surah Yusuf. عن عبد الله بن عامر بن ربيعة قال حفظت سورة يوسف وسورة الحج إلا من عمر من كثرة ما كان يقرأها في صلاة الفجر فقال ما يقرأهما قراءة بطيئة كان يقرأهما قراءة بطيئة Umar ibn al-Khattab, he used to recite, this Amir ibn Rabi'ah, he says, I memorized Surah Yusuf and Surah Hajj because of continuously Umar ibn al-Khattab reciting this in Fajr Salah. Surah Yusuf and Surah Hajj. These two surahs. Long surahs, not short. Surah Yusuf and Surah Hajj are very long surahs. So I memorized these two surahs by just hearing Umar ibn al-Khattab reciting this all the time, every time in Fajr Salah. So he must have read it a lot of times in order for a person. But then again, the memories were extremely sharp, unlike ours. Yeah. So that's another thing to remember. So he used to recite qira'atan bati'atan. He used to recite slowly. The verses very slowly. Then we go on to Surah. The Prophet used to read Surah Isra every night. And Aisha radiyallahu anha. Surah Isra is Surah Bani Israel. We also call it Surah Bani Israel. In some Qur'ans, like the Arab Qur'an, will be Isra. In the other copy, the other Uthmanic copy, same Saudi print, but it's a different copy. It's an easier copy for non-Arabs. They will see Bani Israel. Some surahs, they have 2, 3, 4 names. Okay? You find it in different mushafs. All of them are agreed upon. All of them are agreed upon by the Sahaba, and all of them are tawqifi. I said this last week. All of them are from Allah. All of them are selected. Even the name of the surahs are tawqifi. From Allah. So Rasulullah ﷺ used to recite Surah Bani Israel and Surah Zumar every night before he used to go to sleep. Surah Bani Israel and Surah Zumar. And then here Abdullah bin Mas'ud radiallahu anhu narrates قال في بني إسرائيل والكهف ومريم وطه والأنبياء إنهن من العتاق الأول وهن من تلادي. These various surahs are from the early ancient surahs. Surah Bani Israel, Surah Kahf, Surah Maryam, Surah Taha, and Surah Anbiya. These are from the early surahs that were revealed. There's many things inside there that are not found in any other surahs. Okay? And a lot of the stories of the prophets are mentioned inside there as well, in these 5 surahs specifically. جزاكم الله خير سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك. Inshallah we'll continue next week. Shaykh Zamil Hussain.
الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله